Hi there, this is Jonathan Ginsberg, and today I'd like to walk you through the process that I use when I'm trying to get help from a treating doctor to show that my client meets a listing. And you can use this on your own. And basically what you're going to want to do is to ask your doctor to help you, because if you're going to try to meet a listing, you're going to pretty much need support from a treating doctor, ideally a treating specialist. So as you know, if you've watched any of my other videos, read my materials, there are basically three ways to win a disability case. One is to meet a listing, which we're going to talk about today. The second is to fit within a grid rule. And the third is to prove that your capacity to function at even a simple entry-level job has been so reduced by your multiple medical problems and or medication side effects you would not be a reliable employee. Remember, SSA defines disability in terms of work capacity. You've got to show that because of a medical condition or conditions, you don't have the capacity to perform even entry-level work reliably, and that condition has lasted or is expected to last 12 consecutive months. So normally when I'm trying to prove disability, I've got to prove both a medical problem and I've got to prove that my client's medical problem impacts his or her capacity for work. And if we go to a hearing, I'm going to argue functional capacity, or I'm going to argue grid rules. The problem is it could take 3 years to get to a hearing. Whereas if you argue that you meet a listing, that process is much, much faster. Normally it's going to be about 3 or 4 months. And realize that if you meet a listing, the listings are designed so that there's severe enough medical problems that Social Security will assume if you meet a listing that you don't have the capacity to work. So work capacity limitations are kind of baked into the listings, so we don't have to offer a lot of proof that you have work capacity problems if you meet a listing. And this is really important because the people making the decision about whether or not you meet a listing, these are called state agency adjudicators. They're basically claims adjusters, insurance claims adjusters. They're not judges, they're not lawyers, they are claims adjusters. And so they're looking for what I call magic words. Do you meet a listing or do you not? So if you do, you want to make sure that your doctor gives you some support. We're going to talk about how to do that in a second, that really addresses those magic words. So the starting point is to figure out what listing you actually meet. And as you know, I've got a site here called meetalisting.com. And the link here, the listings, gives you a link to these listings. And this is actually a link to Social Security's Blue Book. So you can see that if listing 1, I'm going to click that there, it opens up to here. The adult listings, again, are all here. This is I just linked all this from my website. You can see listing 1 is musculoskeletal, 2 special senses, 3 respiratory disorders, 4 cardiovascular, and so forth. So let's say, for purposes of this video, that you've got a problem in the cardiovascular system. And the reason I chose that, by the way, is that listings that address problems that can be objectively identified, in other words, that there can be an MRI or a CT scan or some sort of measurement, those are going to be much stronger cases because either you meet the listing or you don't. When it's something that's more a judgment call like mental health issues, much more difficult to meet a listing. So I've had a good deal of success showing that my clients meet a cardiac listing. So let's just go down to this one here, chronic venous insufficiency. And this is basically where you have problems with circulations in your lower leg. And it could be, quite often it results in what they call recurrent ulcerations, where you have bleeding from your legs or a sore that will not heal up. This is here swelling that involves 2/3 of the leg between the ankle and the knee. So again, this is where the blood is not circulating. Typically, this type of edema or swelling is very, very painful. You need to be off your feet. Usually the doctor will say that you need to be off your feet and have your legs at heart level or higher, or certainly raised. And obviously, most employers are not going to let you do that. You can't work a job where you're going to have your legs extended. So if you think you meet listing 4.11, and again, this would be where you've gone to a vascular doctor, specialist, and despite treatment, despite medications and maybe weight loss or any other type of surgery or any other type of treatment, You still have a situation where you have tremendous swelling in your lower legs. You need to have your feet extended. It's very, very painful. You have, again, ulcerations that will not heal. Then you might very well meet a listing. So you would identify this listing as one that you meet. Then what you would do is you would write a letter to your doctor. And I'm going to have a link in this video, or the bottom of the video, the notes, to where I've got this letter so you can kind of copy it. This is an example of a letter. You would need to make this specific to your particular listing. But as you can see, what I've done is I've written Dr. Jones. I just made that up, obviously. As we've discussed, I've made the difficult decision to apply for Social Security disability because of ongoing circulation problems in my legs. And I say it that way because you want to make the doctor aware that you're not applying for disability just on a whim. This is something that's pretty serious, so you've made the difficult decision to apply for disability. As you may know, Social Security will deem me disabled if I meet a listing. In this case, listing 4.11 chronic venous insufficiency, which is shown below. And what I did was I just copied the listing, 4.11. And again, I just literally cut and paste. And obviously there are going to be some listings going to be much longer. You may just want to copy it and attach it to a separate page. If you agree that I meet this listing, it would be extremely helpful if you could write a letter to Social Security about my condition. This is called a narrative report. I would ask that you include dates of treatment, types of treatment attempted, types of medication used, explanation of treatments attempted, and why they were not successful, and a conclusion that my condition meets what is described at listing 4.11 as of your onset date. So if, let's say, your onset date was October 15th of 2016, you'd put that date in there. As I've stated, I'll consider any type of treatment that may help restore my function so I can return to work. Again, you want to show your credibility. At this point in time, however, I feel that I have no choice but to file for disability, and anything you can do to help me would be greatly appreciated. Very truly yours. So basically, this is just an example. You can modify it to your liking, but this is an example of the type of letter that I would send to a doctor when I am trying to get his or her help to show that I meet a listing. And if you can get a narrative report that really tracks this language here, and you submit that along with medical records, that show treatment, that show medications tried, that show all the things you've done, and you also want to make sure you ask that they find you meet a listing. So in your letter to the adjudicator, or when you fill out the form, state specifically, I believe that I meet listing 4.11. Submit that and your chances go way up. And that's basically how you enlist support from your doctor about meeting a listing. Now, one more thing I will point out is that if you're not successful, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not able to make that argument at the reconsideration phase or even at the hearing. Because realize that the adjudicators are not lawyers, are not judges, and sometimes they just don't understand what it means to meet a listing, or the medical documentation is simply too complex or too voluminous, and they just don't want to go through with it. So in that situation, you can raise the other arguments, the grid rule argument or the functional capacity argument, and the listing. You can do one, two, or all three. You're not precluded from you raising a grid rule argument just because you've raised a listing argument. So, but I think for purposes of the initial application, the risk you've got to consider is if I'm raising a listing argument, I also want to throw in the grid rules here or functional capacity here. Maybe you do. Again, that's something, where as an attorney, I would make that argument kind of in a legal brief form where I can make it very clearly. If you feel that's something you can do, then by all means go for it. Mention it. Certainly you can mention, I think I meet the grid rules at whatever, 202.35 or whatever the grid rule is. That's okay. But certainly if I'm at a hearing and I'm raising all three arguments, I'm going to do a pre-hearing brief where I detail each argument and why I think my client meets it. So bottom line is that this is how you get your doctor's support for meeting a listing. And obviously, if you do meet a listing, that could mean a quick approval, 3 or 4 months, and you get your benefits, and you don't have to go through the hassle of appealing and waiting for a hearing. So, hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube or like it on Facebook, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you've not already done so, go to my website, ssdanswers.com, and download your Secrets to Winning Disability Survival Kit. here is ssdanswers.com. There we go. So if you come here and you can subscribe to the Secrets to Winning Disability Survival Kit, all you have to do is just basically fill in the form. You can also ask for a case evaluation. So basically, anything I can do for you, I'm happy to do. Please let me know. Again, this is Jonathan Ginsberg from SSD Answers, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks a lot.